Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, a 17-year-old survivor of that Montel Heights shooting recounts the harrowing ordeal that saw 14 injured. Meanwhile, the commissioner of police says people should still feel safe.
The Christian Council president weighs in on Saturday night's mass shooting.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. A 17-year-old survivor of the Montel Heights shooting is speaking out tonight on the harrowing ordeal. In an interview with Our News, the recent high school graduate recalls being shot twice in her leg, then watching her 10-year-old sister lying bleeding on the cold, hard concrete, screaming for help.
I just felt as though that they just came to kill anybody because my sister, she's the youngest, she's only 10. And she was shot.
17-year-old Nikita Pratt has a bullet in her left leg and is left to move around on crutches. After graduating high school just a few weeks ago, Nikita was excited to start a new chapter in her life. But on Saturday, while attending her stepmother's birthday party in Montel Heights, the unthinkable happened. What started out as a joyous occasion quickly spiraled into a dash for survival.
When I was sitting down, I heard these boom noise and I thought it was firecracker, so I see everybody run. So I chose to run too. And when I look, it was gunshots. My auntie fell in front of me and then I fell down and I realized I had a hole in my foot and I was shocked that I got shot. And my auntie was screaming that somebody should help her. She said she can't feel her legs. Then on the side of me, it was this young lady. Her eyes just was open and I assumed that she was dead. She wasn't blinking and the blood was coming from her head.
In the end, 14 people were shot, including Nikita's 10-year-old sister, Taisha. She remains in hospital with 2 broken legs. Nikita recalls the heartbreaking moment she saw her sister screaming for help.
When I look around, I saw my sister by the sidewalk. She was screaming for my daddy them to come help her. She was bleeding. Then when I look around again by the lady who was bleeding from my head, I saw this other man who got shot. He was on the side of her and he did look stunned too. He wasn't blinking or anything.
Nikita's father was also shot near his ankle. For this 17-year-old, witnessing that carnage and at a birthday party was something she'd never expect. She describes running, not knowing exactly where the gunshots were coming from.
I know it was coming from in the back of me because I was like by the sidewalk, because the road right there. And I just see everybody running. So when I run, I saw it was gunshots coming. I got shot twice. So the first one down there, it have some of my bones broken. And the next one up here by my calf, they say that the bullet of the melt inside my foot because it didn't come out.
Nikita's grandmother, Emilia Toussaint, was at home in Garden Hills when she got the call that her son and 2 granddaughters were shot.
I have to tell everybody who listen, whatever you don't have Jesus in your life, don't let today over, don't get Jesus in your life. Without God, I don't think I could make it this morning. Because 3 people shoot in my house for one night. I will feel so bad that night, I crazy. I woman who can't walk, I have to walk where to find right to go. And Montelai. When I reach there, I meet everybody there and see my children. I fall on the floor.
During a news conference Sunday afternoon, Police Commissioner Anthony Ferguson insisted the streets of New Providence are still safe. But for people like Nikita, now the survivor of a mass shooting, going out isn't an option. She said she just doesn't feel safe anymore.
They wear, like, they don't care. I mean, I don't know.
A plea for blood has been sent out for 10-year-old Taisha Johnson, who remains in hospital. Donations can be made at the blood bank at Princess Margaret Hospital. Well, on the heels of that mass shooting, which left 14 people nursing gunshot wounds, Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson insisted that communities should still feel safe.
I feel safe, and I think you feel safe. You know, because I'll tell you, you are not. I think you have to appreciate that. Persons need to be very aware of the company that you keep. I said that last year. and I say it again. I cannot tell you who to keep company with, but I can only advise you. And we're not going to make any kind of statement that will seek to make families feel uncomfortable, other than the fact to say we want you to be very careful of the company that you keep.
The bloodshed came less than 48 hours after 2 men were killed off Prince Charles Drive. Meanwhile, a 22-year-old man was shot and killed Thursday night. The commissioner was asked whether he feels the government's promise to reduce the murder count to 85 by the year 2021 is realistic.
I'm not going to comment on anything that speaks to the government. I can tell you that the Commissioner of Police have a policing plan that he issued earlier in the year, and that is what all members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force is working by, and I'm satisfied that that plan is in line with the timeline that we have given. And so we are doing very well in respect to that. You will always have incidents. There's no country in the world, absolutely no country in the world, who are immune from such incidents.
Well, prompted by that mass shooting, Bahamas Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernander is calling on law enforcement officers to take what he called intrusive crime prevention measures, including massive island-wide stop and checks. Georgia Bain reports.
Following Saturday night's mass shooting in the Montel Heights area, Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson said he believes that communities here in New Providence are still safe, but Christian Council President Delton Fernander is warning Bahamians to remain vigilant.
I know there are some who are saying that we shouldn't worry. I don't think this is worry, this is caution. That we have a real military-style weapons being used in a battle between warring factions, and they are not concerned about the casualty of this war, a 10-year-old. At some point, as a society, we must look at ourselves and say, for the least amongst us, we ought to protect them. And there's no way a 10-year-old should be taking 2 bullets for a birthday celebration. That's just sending a wrong message, and our society is going in the wrong direction.
Fernander called on the Commissioner of Police to take more drastic, invasive measures to get to the bottom of the country's crime problem.
I believe in short order, and it's just me speaking, the Commissioner is going to have to be more stop and checks that are in a massive style, that are in a way that is very, very intrusive to our flow, because these weapons are in cars and they're moving to and fro to get to their areas, and so it has to be surprise. It has to be massive, almost island-wide. That we have to send the message that you might think you can do this with impunity, that you can move around this island, but we support the police, and that they're going to have to do some very intrusive things so that we can catch these criminals, penalize these criminals.
According to Fernander, the Christian Council has launched Operation Restoration with Dr. David Allen in an effort to help tackle the issue.
This week we'll be going through, like we did before, but not by ourselves, with different partners from society, to not only hear their cry, but give professional counseling, but also witness as the church. But we've got to make an effort to change the type of weapons that are being used, the cause of this conflict that is taking place between rival gangs, and that leads to innocent life shedding, that you can be at an event and the target can be one person and 14 people get shot.
Reporting for our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
One day after Brent Simonet resigned as Minister of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration, Chairman of the PLP, Fred Mitchell, said the opposition had an idea that Simonet was going to make a big move after he warned the opposition on Friday to leave his children out of any political debate. According to Mitchell, Simonet's resignation was long overdue.
The PLP welcomes the resignation. It is long overdue. The reasons we don't know, but what we know is that he leaves the government with a swirl of statements and counter-statements about his contractual arrangements with the government, or at least the interests which are associated with him and those contractual arrangements.
Though government officials have not said why Simonet resigned, the announcement follows controversy over his familial involvement in the Bahamas hot mix. The company was recently awarded contracts by the Water and Sewage Corporation for work in Long Island and Crooked Island, as well as a $20 million contract for rehabilitation work on a runway and taxiway at Lynden Pinling International Airport. Symonette has said that he is not a shareholder of Bahamas Hot Mix, but admitted that his children's trust has shares in the company. The Minnis administration also faced public criticism last year when it was announced that the General Post Office would be moved to Town Center Mall, which is owned by Symonette and his brother.
So perhaps there'll be some explanation coming forth from Mr. Symonette. And perhaps the government itself. I mean, half of them are now down in St. Lucia at the CARICOM conference, so perhaps in time we'll know.
Mitchell was asked if he feels Symonette's resignation is an indictment on the Minnis administration.
You get the impression that this is a ship at sea without an anchor, and that there's not very strong management of the team. And it shows in all of the various things that have happened over the last few days.
While donations have been trickling in for the children's ward at Princess Margaret Hospital, the foundation is still millions of dollars away from completing renovations. PMH officials are appealing to the public to partner with them to get it done. Jillian Gray reports.
More than 3 years after Hurricane Matthew, and this room in the children's ward is still in disrepair. Hospital officials say they are in desperate need of donations to get this room up and running.
But the reality of it is we do need to get what you see behind me renovated for these kids to be able to get back into the space that they so desperately need to be cared in. And so we're appealing to private partnerships, to extend a hand to the Princess Margaret Hospital Foundation. We want you to partner with us to make this space a reality.
The ward, which is currently being used as a storage room, went out of commission back in 2016. The forgotten room in the east balcony of the hospital was brought back to the attention of the public as politicians recently played the blame game over the matter. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis claimed that instead of addressing the damage to the children's ward, the PLP administration went on to spend millions of dollars on Carnival. Former Grand Bahama Minister Michael Darville hit back, insisting it's been 2 years since the Minnis administration took office, and still nothing has been done. Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands said children are put wherever space can be found. As the two parties continue to play the blame game, Administrative Officer for the Children's Ward, Clarice Forbes, said they are pressed for space, and she hopes that something can happen soon.
We push for space, and so we would like to think that the renovations, when it's completed, we will be able to facilitate the children in the areas that they are supposed to be in.
Assistant Director of Communications Thelma Rule Fernandez said the PMH Foundation is accepting donations of any amount as well as volunteer work from the public. Once the ward is up and running, it will be able to accommodate 50 children ages 6 months to 2 years old.
Being away from families in the hospital is by itself a very somewhat frightening experience for children. And so as you saw in the classroom, the nursing team joked around and said the kids wouldn't want to go back to the classroom when they get, to the ward once they're in the classroom because of how kid-friendly the design was. I mean, Paradise Children really made very, very beautiful attention to detail in terms of making it kid-friendly. We want to be able to translate that into this space.
Raul Fernandez expressed gratitude for the donations that have come in thus far, particularly from the Paradise Children's Foundation, which worked with a team of 20 to raise $10,000 to renovate the children's ward classroom. The room, which was blessed and dedicated on Monday, took 6 months to complete and is just one of the projects the foundation said it would like to assist with.
Well, we've talked about doing a family room up here in the children's ward. There isn't anywhere for the children to sit with their families when they come to meet, and we'd really like to do something with that. That would be our next one.
The goal is for the entire ward to be renovated by the new year. Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Thanks, Jillian. Still to come, PMH's Oncology Department gets a survivor's bell. The details after this break.